abusuafo ene eyadia honorable Dr. Zenator Rawlings ewo parliament wa yadia wanwaso yes ene wama Alexander Afenyo marking yes wo hu baabi a se ohye abusua wo hu baabi a se oche se ode ne ho ete abusua ene ensem a honorable Zenator Rawlings ahwie agu ewo parliament no abusua ensem no ano ede wedi ma mekasa anye tente pese ya ye ko na yetie ne koso ewo parliament abra speaker Emma Zenator Rawlings chese kwan se oni enkomo ewo ho abusua ha eda so aye media gh yebese wa se enane de connect channel so ni do no go kwan so yebese wa so be subscribe like na abusua wa bo aso share ma for person bi tie no anya bi ate na abusua be channel so e de ama se ha abusua for ye ni atem ya adwen na ye kire yes ya adwen na ye kire ewo ne ayehu ene ne ayete ewo social media iso be media gh professor konya we so ado bibiara say abusua since day one mo na chese mo support your channel no from 0 subscribers to 17k subscribers abusua be media gh edamase be media gh ani so ne amaye ede amaye yentie ne ekoso ewa parliament emrasisia yedase.
And it's first said that a public officer who has authority to investigate an alleged contravention of a law or to the Attorney General if the information is required for an investigation or for prosecution. That's the Attorney General. Then it talks to the Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs because of the research, personnel, if the information related to the conduct of an international affairs of the country. It then talks about Minister responsible for Defense because of external intelligence and other things. Then it talks about the Chief Justice if it is about the judiciary. Then it came to give a much broader group, including IGP, including all the others. Now you say you want to delete that and put what? What are you trying to put? It's completely misplaced. So you have to understand what the chronology, what is the whole thing about. It is to ensure that, what do you call it, a minister of state. So for example, something is happening in the transport sector. There's an intelligent person who has information that can be relayed to the transport minister. There's something happening and Speaker of Parliament needs to be informed. They can come and inform him. There's something happening to Bimbila and the MP for Bimbila needs to be informed. This is a public officer who needs to know that information. Now you say you want to delete all that and put there what? Yeah, this is so there's a consensus of that nature. We need to report for the court to the court of constitutional jurisdiction.
I'm leader, you're a member of the committee. Mr. Speaker, the danger we face, because international best practice makes provision for parliamentary oversight, and in all the jurisdictions where there's a select committee on intelligence, there's a different level of clearance, especially in order to remove the level of secrecy that intelligence agencies always place when it comes to the disclosure of information to Parliament. We are currently faced with issues of certain levels of information that Parliament did not have access to with regards to intelligence agency activity. If it is the decision of the House that we abandon explicitly talking about parliamentary oversight, as we progress in this bill, you'll see there's a part that speaks to the fact that there is no obligation for disclosure to Parliament, which means we're back where we started in terms of this nexus between secrecy and transparency when it comes to oversight.
So, Honorable Chairperson, I would direct that you've seen the sense of the House. They are really not against the exercise of the oversight, but what they are against is the vetting. The question is, if you say vetting, members of Parliament who belong to that committee will be vetted by who? And after the vetting, who gives the approval? So, if it is the National Security Coordinator, can the National Security Coordinator have the power to vet a member of Parliament and disapprove that that member of Parliament is not qualified to belong to a parliamentary committee? That is where the difficulty lies. So you can look at your amendment and do away with that aspect and let it be captured by the order paper, and then we'll take a look at it regarding the exercise of the oversight. So honourable members, I believe clause 17, particularly the proposed amendment in the name of Honorable Akroma, though he was not here, has been accepted too, but the only thing is that we did not put a question. To split the functions of the external and the internal. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, in 10:30 it was separated. But you see, there's reason for merging it. Look at the proposed amendment, the proposed bill. The functions have been merged and made not to be very open because of the functions of the research department. If you separate it like we did, you give much elaboration about it, and you are exposing our officers abroad. Everybody around the world knows when you talk about these research officers, some of the things that they do. But it is not written in the black and white. Why do you want to do that? So, if you look at the way it is in the proposed bill, technically, you see that almost all the major functions for both have been incorporated, and there's reason for doing that. And I really wish my colleague Akroma is here to draw his attention why this is made, because we just don't want it to be a source of exposure to our officers.
Yes, so Minister, I will direct that with your involvement. You look at clause 14, 16, and 17, together with members of the Winnowing Committee and the proponent of those amendments, and then we can deal with the issue once and for all. Now we'll move straight to clause 37.
That's it. Oaths.
Very well. Clause 36.
Oaths.
Chairperson of the committee.
There are no proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker.
It is for the consideration of the House. Now, members, any proposed amendment to clause 36? In the absence of any proposed amendment, I'll put the question.
Right Honourable Speaker, beg your pardon.
Do you have amendment on clause 36?
There was
Members, it looks like we put a question on clause 36. It's talking about effect of warrant.
in a previous order paper from
Yes.
the 17th, clause 36, there was a proposed amendment which was as follows: subclause 2, line 3, delete oath and insert oath of secrecy on leaving office.
So, for the avoidance of doubt, I'll put a question. As many as are in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The proposed amendment is ordered to stand part of the bill. Now to clause 36 in its entirety. As many as are in favor of clause 36 standing part of the bill say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 36 is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 37.
Authorized disclosure of information.
Chairperson of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, the committee has no proposed amendment.
However, we have an amendment standing in the memo. Before you can provide that information. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I think that maybe we'll talk to the leader to move it to maybe the section that deals with oath of secrecy. Maybe that would be okay, because he seeks to talk about when you would disclose information and you haven't committed a crime. And there are only two possible places. Either maybe the court can determine it, or maybe you put it in the bill. When, for example, I take an oath of secrecy and the bill gives me an opportunity to be able to talk to somebody if I see that they are committing a crime. But for this particular clause, it's just looking at how you can disclose information. It's not seeking to criminalize it or not. It's telling you who you can give the information to and who you shouldn't give the information to. I think that this brother, I thought that the clause 2 is staying. But whatever the case, clause 2 must stay, because, Mr. Speaker, clause 2 gives them, the officer and all other persons mentioned here, the broader opportunity to be able to divulge information as and when necessary. And also, we should be very careful. When you are setting up an agency, you should be very careful giving look
Of Osahin Alexander Kwamina Afenyo. Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I rise to move this on behalf of Osayin Alexander Kwame na Afenyo Marking, and that's clause 37. Amendment proposed, Speaker, subclause 2, paragraph 2 should delete and insert the following. Where a court of competent jurisdiction determines that the disclosure is strictly necessary in the public interest and proportionate to the objective pursued. Speaker, I so move.
The clause 37 is talking.
Sorry, Speaker, I think I had a mistake. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I've seen that. Speaker, asking that especially moving this on behalf of Alexander Kwame na Afenyo Marking. Speaker, amendment proposes to add the following new subclause. 3. Where an officer or employee shall not. Speaker, is that the one? Are we on the... Sorry. So, subclause 2, paragraph...
You see, Honorable Jerry Ahmed, I was just drawing your attention to the misalignment of the proposed amendment. That if you look at the bill itself, clause 37 is talking about use of internal grievance procedure. That you complain to the coordinator if the coordinator didn't work or he has addressed it but you are dissatisfied, you petition the Chief Justice and the Chief Justice would form a committee, that's a tribunal, that will give a hearing, beyond which it is open to wherever you think you can seek redress. These are the internal grievance procedure. That's where the provision is saying that despite the provisions of this act on redress of grievances, an employee of an intelligence agency shall at the first instance resort to the internal grievance procedure set out in the conditions of service and code of conduct of that intelligence agency before resorting to the procedure set out under this act. That is what 37 is talking about. And then the amendment here is subclause 2. Delete E. And clause 37 doesn't have subclause 2.
Especially 37 has...
Sorry, I'm using the act instead of the bill.
Yes.
It's strictly necessary. That's subjective. So, in view of NS Act 323, Section 51 is relevant evidence. So it should read where a court of competent jurisdiction determines that the disclosure is relevant in the public interest and proportionate to the objective pursued. Speaker, I even think humbly that and proportionate to the objective pursued should also be deleted, so that it reads where a court of competent jurisdiction determines that the disclosure is relevant in the public interest. Then we end it there. Proportionate to the objective pursued are all not important in this regard. Once the court comes to the determination that is relevant in the public interest, then a decision will be made. We don't have to qualify it strictly. Well, if we have to carry it, I think that a further amendment, if it's disagreed to,
yes, have the floor. Let me hear Honorable Patrick Boma. I'll come to you.
That's by subsection 2 of 37(2), which gives the person who has such an information a wide range of options to follow. Because if you don't curtail that, a serving officer will bypass the established structure in the name of, me having this information and divulging it in good faith. Go through the structure. We need to protect the structure and from people dancing around the structure. That is why subsection 2 has been provided. That despite subsection 2, you have A, B, up to E to follow. And it deals and cures any apprehension from anyone who works within the system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. So I also share your consideration on the floor. Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, this is completely misplaced. Because what we are doing here is who and who you can disclose information to.